What's up, my little napkins, and welcome back. Today we're looking at 3 stories from r/MaliciousCompliance. Today's first story is titled, Boss Asked Me to Report 100% of Vehicle Damage, and it comes from the user Lebin the Great. I used to work as a supervisor of a security team at a large industrial facility. I had a good relationship with the manager, we'll call him Dave, until he appointed his friend as the middle manager, we'll call him Steve, between the supervisors and himself. I did not have a good relationship with Steve at all, and suddenly Dave started rejecting ideas, suggestions, and requests out of hand. The friendly guy that I used to go to and have sit-down chats with regularly became standoffish and outwardly hostile at times. The staff all noticed this as well, and would frequently comment that they didn't know what I'd done to Dave and Steve, but it was clear that I was being bullied all of a sudden. It's entirely fair to say that I couldn't do right, for doing wrong all the time, and every little thing I did or did not do resulted in a lengthy email conversation with Dave and Steve. There is a lot I could add to this, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to move on to the point of my story. The site we had to patrol was about 5 square miles, so vehicles were provided so that we could patrol effectively and carry equipment and personnel to required locations. Part of my duties at the start of the shift were ensuring that the vehicles had not been damaged on the previous shift, and that all vehicles had required levels of equipment in them. The first patrol went out the moment our shift started, and as this was a regulatory requirement, could not be delayed or skipped. This was the start of a night shift, so it was dark, very dark. We had maglite torches, but after 6 years of use and abuse, they weren't exactly bright. I didn't find any new damage, and so recorded that the vehicles were okay, and recorded their mileage on our check sheets. The next night when I came in, I had a very angry in tone email from Dave demanding to know why my team had damaged one of the vehicles on the previous night. Apparently, the vehicle looked as if it had been reversed into a wall. I immediately went to check the vehicle, and found 2 extremely small divots in the rear bumper. I found them not by looking, but by feeling the bumper. I simply could not see them at all using the light available to me at the time. I then went and asked all of my team, and all of them insisted that they had not even used the vehicle. I went and checked the vehicle check sheets, and found, true to my team's word, that the mileage on the day shift sheets was identical to the night shift sheets. The vehicle had not been moved. I sent an email back to Dave, informing him that the vehicle hadn't been used by us, and apologized for missing the damage. However, lighting had made that extremely difficult. This was my last shift before my scheduled days off, so I was certain that Steve would be pushing Dave to punish me for something by the time I got back. Sure enough, on my first day back, I was summoned into Dave's office for what we British politely refer to as the bollocking. Dave insisted that he could see the damage in the dark, and could actually spot it from about 10 meters away. For context, all of my guys had been shown the damage, and all of them without fail said where when I pointed it out at close range. Not only that, but there was now additional damage that I hadn't spotted and my team was not responsible for. Luckily, my boss had included a photograph of the damage I had missed. The photograph's on screen right now. See the light scratch? No, I didn't either. For Dave and Steve, however, this was good enough to be punitive towards me and my team, and told me that unless a culprit was found and named, I would be held personally responsible and would have to pay the insurance excess to get it fixed. Dave also insisted that the lighting was more than significant to spot the damage on the vehicles. I told Dave that this was ridiculous, and he could not enforce financial penalties on a vehicle that had again not been used by my team. Dave was insistent though. It was my job to report 100% of the damage on the vehicles, or I would be held responsible. And at this point, something clicked in my mind. And luckily, David decided to back up his instructions with an email that Steve was CC'd into. The next shift, I refused to allow my team to use the vehicles until they had been fully checked, inside, outside, underneath, mechanically and equipment levels. Each vehicle took about 2 hours. I photographed every single small bit of damage that I found, no matter how insignificant or whether it had been reported previously. Remember, the instructions said to report 100% of damage, not 100% of unreported damage, and sent it all in an email to Dave with a text description of the nature and location of the damage for each photograph. There were 162 photographs in total. The first patrol could not be skipped, and so I had to send out one of my officers on foot to patrol the site. This meant that the site patrol took nearly 3 hours, and he was not able to fulfill the other duties afterwards. It's worth noting at this point that my team were also seeing this as a direct attack on them, rather than just me, so were fully supportive of the measures I was taking. This resulted in the site's shift manager demanding answers, to which I was able to tell the shift manager of Dave's instructions and why I was having to send officers out on foot. I had and still do have a great relationship with all of the site's shift managers, and so while he was frustrated, he understood the predicament I had been put in, especially when the instructions were shown to him in black and white. This resulted in a financial penalty for my company. Dave was off the next day, so I did the exact same thing again, with the exact same amount of photographs, but all taken again on a fresh inspection. The night shift after, I came to work to find Dave waiting in the office for me. I was allowed to finish my handover with the off-going supervisor before Dave shut the door and refused to let me leave before he had discussed why he had received multiple emails, over 800 megabytes in total. I didn't compress or reduce the size of the photos, and how the company had received a financial penalty and the regulatory body were coming to speak to him. I reminded him that he had demanded that I report 100% of the damage on the vehicles, and that this had taken time. I couldn't allow any member of the team to use any vehicle until they had been checked, as there could be financial penalties involved. Dave frustratedly pointed out that many of the pics were too dark to see anything anyway, and so most of the photographs were pointless. I apologized for the lighting, but pointed out that he said the lighting was more than sufficient to spot any damage, and so he should be able to easily see the damage I had reported. Dave insisted that I had deliberately misinterpreted his instructions, and that he would be taking it to a disciplinary. I informed him that this was no problem. If he could just let me know the date and the time, I would inform my union rep, who had been fully appraised of the situation and was 100% behind my suggestion that I report every single tiny bit of damage on the vehicles. Dave was ultimately left with no choice but to drop any attempts to discipline me, and left Steve to deal with me from that point on. Steve then took up the role of disciplinarian for the next 3 months until I left the job. However, every time he tried, I was able to shut it down due to briefings with my union rep. I left the job in February of 2019, and still to this day receive complaints from members of staff who remain there about how terrible the job has gotten due to Dave and Steve. Story number 2 is titled, "Don't touch the emails." Well, okay then, Miss Lazy Coworker, I won't. Have fun finding a new job. And this story was posted by user Mavra the Zombie. So at my job, I'm one of the supervisors. It's a firm with a lot of employees all tucked into one big room, and there are 2 supervisors and a shift leader in each shift, morning, afternoon, night. These shifts get rotated on occasion, but we supervisors mostly rotate with them. Normally with my typical co-supervisor, we share the responsibility of dealing with all the work-related emails. There's a lot more than one would expect, so it does sometimes take up to even a few hours of each day. One week, one of the shift leaders derped and put me together with a different supervisor, and we were basically stuck for that month. Now she's absolutely lazy, like ridiculously so. Won't even get off her butt during lunch and go eat at the cafeteria. Instead, she makes a mess at her work desk, which would later be used by the supervisor of the next shift. I used to be the schmuck getting the desk from her, and it was always a crumbly mess. Because of this, she does none of the actual supervising, and never has. During our 3rd day that week, she asked me why I was sitting at the desk for so long, and if I had any intentions of actually doing my job. I replied that I was doing the emails, and she got super pissed, telling me that it was her assigned duty. This is how she and her usual supervisor split their load, and told me to get out of the office and go watch the coworkers. She pretty much screamed it, turning red in the face and all, throwing all sorts of insults at me about how my generation never does anything. So I told her fine, I'm never touching the emails again. We even signed unofficial workplace contracts distributing our duties evenly, and she got the emails. Now, though we are technically all the same, I am the supervisor most likely to be promoted. So the shift leaders and directors generally talk to me and have me relay some info to the others. So I'm a lot closer to all of them than the other soups are. Well, because of this, I was the first to learn that we needed to master Excel, and hop to it immediately. It wasn't officially announced, but when it was, the lazy bum I was stuck with first refused to learn it, saying that it wasn't a skill listed as needed when we applied. Knowledge about Microsoft programs was listed. She kept postponing learning it until we officially got some work to do with Excel. I started doing it right away, and because this isn't something you can just do for another person, each individual soup gets credit based on how many tablets needed we make. They're for some sort of pamphlet, but I have no clue how to describe the full thing in English. So during our 3rd week together, I do the usual routine of checking on the workers, then working with Excel until I met my quota. Well, because Miss Lazy Bum never used Excel, she got an official warning for not meeting the quota. and ended up only barely learning some stuff about Excel. She was still super slow and couldn't even meet the quota, let alone make up for the lost time. Now during this, the emails, as you may have guessed, remained untouched because Excel took her the full 8 hours. During our last week together, the director came and asked us what was going on and why our shift was always getting clogged with the emails. Ms. Lazy Bum immediately tried to pin the blame on me. But bippity boppity boo, I had the contract that she insisted on us signing. Since she'd already been given a warning for not learning Excel and had a previous complaint about the way she spoke to some of the other employees, she was fired. I was meant to return to my usual co-supervisor next week, but now I'm on sick leave. So that might be karma bitch slapping me. Alright, and the third and final story is titled, Well, You Never Said Not to Wear Orange, and it comes from the user One Lucky Bug. I will never forget my favorite malicious compliance from my private school days. For some important background, I went to a very strict religious school. And though I was also religious, Catholic, I was not the same religion as the headmaster and founders, Baptists. They did not like me from day one and made it clear. I wanted to play soccer, but they only had a men's team. All the girls here play volleyball. Why don't you just try that? I didn't want to play volleyball. I had played soccer for 10 years at that point. I wanted to play popular Christian rock songs for music ministry and was told that we weren't allowed to play that devil worship music. Tons of stuff like that. I was in the office more than once, despite being a mild-mannered freshman. Another important note is that at this time I had a pretty, we'll call it punk style, I guess. I did a lot of shopping at PacSun, Hot Topic, and most of what I owned was black, normal teen stuff. Also had very, very long brown hair that would often fall on my face. Think Violet from the first half of The Incredibles. This will be important. Things continued to get worse over the next 2 years. Finally, at the beginning of my junior year, I was called into the guidance office. The headmaster, guidance counselor, and my English teacher were there for an intervention. Miss English, OP, we're very concerned about you. You don't seem to be very social. Are you happy? Are you having dark thoughts? I'm perfectly happy and have a ton of friends. What made you think there was something wrong? Headmaster, we're just a little concerned about how you present yourself. What is that supposed to mean? Miss English interrupting loudly. Well, it's probably because you dress in all black, baggy clothes, and your hair is always in your face. It'd be nice if we could see you smile and know you're all right. What's wrong with wearing all black? I just feel comfortable in these clothes. Plus, the baggy pants aren't that baggy, and they help me avoid accidentally breaking the pants must not be skin tight rule in the dress code. And I'm proud of my long hair. It's taken me years to get it this long. I'm perfectly happy. I'm just wearing what I like most. Headmaster, well, we'd like to see you wearing happier looking outfits. You really should make an effort to fit in among your peers. Miss English, and you should try wearing more happy colors. Wearing harsh blacks will only make us wonder how you're doing. It's safe to say I was horribly insulted. Wearing black didn't make me suicidal, and I had a great life at that point. So cue the malicious compliance. I spent the next few days investigating, waiting for the nugget of information that would make this compliance so sweet, juicy if you will. Finally, my English teacher says offhandedly while insulting yet another student, I just hate the color orange. It's such an unbearingly ugly color. There it was. My plan was ready. I filled my closet with orange, bright orange top, striped orange jacket, puffy orange vest. My favorite was an iridescent fluorescent orange rain jacket. Honestly, I don't like the color orange either, but I did what I had to do. So almost every day for the rest of junior year, I wore an orange shirt and pulled back my long hair to make it even more visible. And then I sat in the front center seat of Miss English's class and made her stare at my bright orange shirt. I could see the disdain in her face every time. A few of my friends got in on it occasionally too. After about a month, she made a comment about how it was nice to see me putting some more variety in my wardrobe, but why did it have to pick the color orange? I just said, well, you didn't want me to wear black anymore. But isn't orange a great color? And I didn't stop wearing orange until the end of the year. In defense to OP, I actually like the color orange. It reminds me of Halloween. Let me know what your favorite color is in the comments, and what color you absolutely despise. Thanks to everyone who watched to the end. I really appreciate you. Do me a favor and give that like button a click to appease the YouTube robots. And if you're new here and like videos like this, then subscribe for future videos. See you later.